Modern industrialism has given us many, many things, including smartphones, cars, Wi-Fi, fast food, fast fashion. And on the surface, all of these things might seem awesome, but behind the scenes, it is also tearing apart and wreaking havoc on the natural systems that everything on the planet, including us, rely on for survival. And today, more than ever, our economies treat forests, fossil fuels, minerals, and ecosystems like just another commodity to be burned through and utilized for our own benefit. And in this video, we're going to be breaking down 4 incredibly important pillars of industrial destruction. And these are going to be logging, mining, oil and gas drilling, and last but not least, the production of consumer goods. And we're not just going to be talking in the abstract, oh, we have to save nature, because everybody is doing that. And at this point, it's really just a lost cause. We're going to be looking at individual companies, projects, and hard statistics behind the destruction of the environment. So it's clear how industrial progress translates to deforestation, pollution, community harm, and the destruction of the natural world. And by the end of this video, I want you guys to see how it's not just the bad companies out there, it is the choices that we make every single day and the system we rely on. So if that sounds interesting to you, why don't you stay to the end? And hopefully you'll come out with some neat ideas and some new information learned. So without further ado, let's get into the video. So let's start with logging, because forests right now are being cut down at an industrial scale all over the planet, all day, every single day. Globally, deforestation is responsible for 10 to 15% of greenhouse gas emissions, and this is mostly due to agriculture and logging. One of the largest companies linked to deforestation is Cargill, a US-based agribusiness giant that has been directly linked multiple times by investigators to the destruction of the Amazon, mostly for soy and beef production. Cargill has also been accused of buying palm oil from producers who illegally clear-cut forests in Indonesia and Malaysia, and also buying cacao from protected forests in Guyana. And this isn't just cutting down a few trees here and there. This is massive scale clear cutting of incredibly important, incredibly old forests. It is directly linked, obviously, to immense loss of biodiversity along with huge amounts of carbon emissions. And currently, the economy tends to treat forests as land for soy, as cattle farms, as logging operation, as mines, instead of the very thing that keeps us all living and breathing every single day, that is so incredibly essential for human and all animal and plant life on Earth. And personally, as someone who spends a whole lot of time outdoors, I see this quite a lot. Whenever I walk through a forest that's clear cut or that's been burned because of human negligence, it's just so saddening to see. And it just makes me think of everything that we're losing every single day. And I just want to do something to help. And realistically, I'm not going to be able to do anything. But if we all get together and help, then that's when we can really make a change. And I'm going to make some videos in the future talking about how we can all do this. But for now, let's get into mining. The environmental costs of mining are incredibly vast. Mining takes up an estimated 10 to 15% of global carbon emissions. And the land that's used for mining is about 120,000 square kilometers, which for reference is about the size of a medium-sized country. And beyond that, mining generates a massive amount of waste stored as tailings. And these tailings are sometimes stored in ponds, sometimes just stored in huge mounds. And a lot of the times, these tailings can include toxic materials that can then leach into the groundwater and pollute incredibly large ecosystems in a relatively short amount of time due to how groundwater flows throughout the entirety of the ecosystem. An example of this is the Church Rock uranium mill tailing spill, which happened on July 16th, 1979. And so basically, 1,100 tons of radioactive mill tailings exploded out violently into a river and flowed for miles and miles down this river in the Navajo Nations. Along with that, there were an estimated 95 million gallons of contaminated toxic wastewater produced from this accident. And if you want some more info on that, Wendigoon has an incredible video about it. It'll be linked in the description. Go watch it if you're interested. That being said, in countries like China, the unsustainable exploitation of minerals has led to severe land degradation, soil erosion, and habitat destruction, alongside significant pollution through processing of those minerals. And this isn't just about the environment. Mining communities often face short and long-term health complications as a result of their work, incredibly poor working conditions, and contaminated drinking water. And on a global level, the estimated damage cost of mining emissions alone is estimated to be about $3 trillion. And as the world rushes and gathers around all of these new green technologies like solar panels and electric cars, the demand for certain minerals and materials is beginning to skyrocket and is going to just keep raising more and more year upon year. In fact, by 2050, the extraction of materials of lithium and cobalt are expected to increase by around 500%. That is absolutely insane, a 500% increase on materials that right now we're already producing and extracting at a massive scale. And this is all just from new green technologies. And if mining is the practice that tears the earth open, oil and gas drilling is what takes a knife and shoves it straight into the heart of every single one of our incredible ecosystems here on this planet. In the United States alone, there are around 1.2 million oil and gas production facilities, all the way from small wells to massive refineries. And more than 12 million people in the United States live within half a mile of these production facilities, which exposes them to countless amounts of pollutants every single day. On U.S. public lands, around 12 million acres are used for fossil fuel production. This is just about the amount of area as Yellowstone Park. That's like if all of Yellowstone Park got demolished right now and replaced with oil and gas production. Globally, a small group of fossil fuel companies are responsible for the vast majority of the pollution. A recent study looking at 111 oil and gas companies has discovered that they have caused a collective $28 trillion of environmental damage. And more than half of that is linked to just 10 fossil fuel corporations, which include the following: Saudi Aramco, Gazprom, ExxonMobil, BP, Shell, the National Iranian Oil Company, Pemex, Coal India, and the British Coal Corporation. In terms of numbers alone, Saudi Aramco, BP, and Shell are among the top polluters, each associated with tens of billions of tons of carbon dioxide emitted over time. And with all that being said, the environmental impacts of oil, gas, and coal begin way before they're eventually burned. Strip mining for coal can destroy entire swaths of hillside and forest, and turning the land into a barren and desolate landscape that may never fully recover in our lifetimes. Drilling infrastructure such as roads and pipelines fragment natural habitats and leave long-lasting scars on the environment. Spills and leaks contaminate rivers, wetlands, and oceans with damage that can last for decades, even centuries. And this is a constant problem. This isn't something we can just snap our fingers and make go away if we had better technology. The technology isn't the problem here. It's the infrastructure itself. It's the economy itself that drives all of this production. And when these greenhouse gases are finally burned in factories, cars, power plants, they release greenhouse gases that drive climate change and even cause millions of premature deaths every single year from things like cancer. That's no fun. I don't want cancer. You don't want cancer. There's the air is giving us cancer. Sweet. That's actually not great. I lied. Anyway, so with the light rant out of the way, the story doesn't actually end at the wellhead or the mine, because all of this extraction feeds into the vast production of consumer goods, aka the stuff that we buy, use once, and then throw away, never to be seen again, by us at least. They're seen by a lot of animals that eat them. Modern industrialism isn't just about extraction, it's about turning the things extracted into products. Smartphones, watches, cars, food, doesn't matter, right? It's all products that we, as the consumers, purchase and use. But almost every product in modern society has a hidden supply chain of forest burned and clear cut, areas mined, and fossil fuels burned. The global economy's insatiable thirst for constant growth is going at a pace that is unsustainable and unprecedented, leading to environmental degradation, pollution, biodiversity loss, and so many other massive problems that we face today. And so a few examples of the corporate impact on this massive consumer web includes everyone's favorite investment firm, BlackRock. Yay! BlackRock invests heavily into companies that produce palm oil, beef, soy, metals, and fossil fuels, the production of all of which lead to the degradation of the environment, soil degradation, and everything else that I mentioned earlier that's so not good and really bad for us, actually. Yay, BlackRock and Vanguard. And building consumer technologies also lock in even more extraction. For example, electric cars can take up to 6 times more minerals than a conventional gas car, with the exception, of course, of steel and aluminum for the frame. And wind power plants use around 9 times more minerals than gas-fired power plants, interestingly enough. And while these technologies can dramatically cut fossil fuel emissions on the outside, they also underline a key problem. It's not enough to just swap technologies. We also have to think about how we consume and how we produce these technologies in the first place. So we really have to consider, how long do products last? Whether or not our current systems that we have in place are built around repair, reuse, and recycle, or if they're built around immediate replacement when something breaks. Because we can't just keep going around where everything is single use or several times use. We have to be able to have things that we can repair and reuse and recycle over and over and over again, or we're just going to end up with huge piles of trash absolutely everywhere, covering the entire planet. And it's just going to be an endless cycle of consuming, and then everything we've consumed ends up in the dump, and then that cycle is going to end because we're going to run out of things to exploit from the earth, and we're all going to die, which isn't great. And I know that that's kind of a gloomy outcome, but like, that might be what it comes to. It's either going to be that, or we have to make reforms, and we have to make reforms now. This is the time. There has never been a better time to stop this. So now, with all of that being said, where does this leave us, and what can we actually do? When you start to zoom out, a pattern appears. From logging to mining to fossil fuels to consumer goods, we're looking at a single system that commodifies nature externalizes cost, and rewards short-term profit over long-term ecological sustainability. Industrialization has undeniably raised material living standards for the majority of people on the planet. But it has also brought air pollution, water pollution, overcrowding in urban areas, and massive depletion of natural resources. And the damage is incredibly unevenly distributed. Over 12 million people currently live within around half a mile of oil and gas extraction sites. And these are consequences that the consumer, for the most part, will never see. And forest-dependent peoples and biodiversity hotspots are all sacrificed for global commodity chains that mainly benefit big corporations and the wealthy people that own them. But the most crucial part about this whole thing is that the system is designed, and what we designed, we can also recreate and redesign. But no single action can actually fix anything, right? So there are layers of change that we all have to take part in. And I could rant to you guys about personal choices, buy less, buy stuff used, repair whatever you can. But this has all been sprouted out a million times by a million people. And in the grand scheme of things, it honestly does not help that much. The problem is not the consumer. The problem is the producer. So if we stop supporting the producer, then the problem can no longer prevail because it's no longer profitable to produce the things that are destroying the environment. Now, I am not a genius, right? Like, I don't know all of the steps for this. And I'm trying to figure it out, and so are so many other people. But as I figure it out, you better be sure that I'm going to be letting you guys know about it, right? I feel like at this point, we're beyond boycotting. We're beyond protests because things are getting bad, and they're not going to stop getting bad unless we start taking direct action against these corporations that are killing the environment every single day. And if you want some more information about that, I highly recommend sticking around because later, in the next several weeks, I'll be releasing some more videos about how us as individuals and us as small groups can very strongly and efficiently impact this whole system. And modern industrialism, it didn't just happen. It was built step by step by corporations, governments, and consumers. And so by that same logic, we can build something different. Every time we vote, every time we organize, every time we choose less extraction and more protection, we're nudging the system towards a future where the forests are more than just timber, where the rivers are more than just canals where we dump our waste, and where the earth is more than just a mine, an oil field, or a factory. And actually, now that I think about it, about that last part I just said, I did mention voting, and I'm going to be so honest, I don't know about all that. No further comments. Anyway, if this video helped you at all see the connections that the economy has to the environment and how it's not necessarily a very great system that we've all launched ourselves into, then why don't you go ahead and share this video with somebody who still thinks that environmental degradation is just the cause of some couple of corporations or some evil dude in a distant land far, far away, because it's all interconnected. It's one whole system, and it's that one whole system that we have to rebuild. Because as long as we keep pretending that everything is fine, the faster that this industrial machine will keep destroying the natural world. So with that being said, thank you very much for watching. I greatly appreciate it. And if you want to see more content like this about environmentalism and how we can fight back against the industrial machine, please share this video. Maybe subscribe if you want. Have a great day and have a good one.